He's got it! And you've won the World Cup by the barest of margins!
Right.
Hello, welcome everybody. We finally got Alistair Cook in the Virtual Cricket Club, I'm glad to say. Just before I introduce him, and of course Simon Mann, please can you all put your microphones on mute? This is the first time I realise we've used this Zoom system, but hopefully you were all able to connect okay.
We are on mute.
So can you all go on mute just because it helps for sort of streaming and recording purposes? And what we'll do is when your question comes up, we'll get you to answer it and go on. Well, there's a lot of kind of feedback going on here now. So everybody on mute, please.
We're on mute, don't we?
We can still hear quite a lot of background noise there. So if you could possibly click your mics on mute, that would be really brilliant. And we'll get you on screen to ask your question. And then you can unmute yourself at the appropriate time. Okay, thank you very much. Thank you everyone for coming, and especially thank you very much to the chef, Alistair Cook, for being with us. Sir Alistair Cook, I should say, a man who has 12,472 test runs, 33 test hundreds, and 79 sheep. Alistair, welcome.
Hi, Simon. Simon, are you there? I can't see Simon. I can't see Simon there. Yeah, I've got you.
I'm sure he will be there somewhere.
Yeah,
So is the 79 sheep correct?
Well, probably a few more than that. Probably closer. Well, they're all on the wife's side and the wife's family side. So yeah, maybe you might be able to find 3,000 at certain times of the year.
Wow.
So it's a few about. But first, I've got to apologise for last week. I haven't missed very many things ever. I think this was the first one I ever missed. Obviously, I missed a lot of cricket balls, as usually when you text me saying, "This was the first thing I missed," and you said, "Well, you missed that ball from Ryan Harris in the Perth first ball," which I thought was quite funny. But yeah, it was a horrible, horrible email I got at 8:30 when I realised that I'd missed it because my phone had been broken for 2 days and kind of lost contact out of Word, and I just totally forgot.
And there's no hope of a phone technician in deepest Bedfordshire, I suppose, is there?
Well, I'm sure there is. I actually tried to fix it, and there's no chance of fixing it. So I'm still without a phone. And actually, I'm quite enjoying it.
I can imagine. Well, you're not the sort of. I seem to remember when you first took over as captain. Maybe this was a bit of an exaggeration, but you were quite happy for people to not use social media in the dressing room straight after the game, right?
Yeah, I mean, yes. I think I suppose when probably it started in Strauss's era, really, when social media first became a thing. We spent a lot of time discussing it as a side, how we would deal with it, because it was so new, and now it's just the norm, isn't it? Now the guys coming into the thing, they've been brought up with social media, Twitter, Instagram, so they kind of know what to do with it. But we weren't sure what to do with it. All the people coming into our things, we tried to. It's more just at the end of the day when you'd come off. Obviously, you had to hand your phones in, and in international cricket, you hand your phones in to do with anti-corruption, and you get your phone back, and then there's just a whole day of cricket, and then you just total silence because everyone's on their phone, almost scrolling through what they've missed in the world. Tried to do.
Guys, sorry to interrupt. Can everybody go on mute, please? We're hearing a lot of other background noise. So if everybody could put their microphones on mute,
No.
because we can hear a lot of kind of chatting and all sorts of other paraphernalia. Everybody on mute, please. Thank you. And we'll get you unmuted when you need to ask your question. That's brilliant. Thanks. So, I mean, one thing I just wanted to ask you, Asa, sort of looking at this winter, this is your second winter without cricket, as it were. And you're a guy who has obviously loved practice as well as batting. So how do you fill the space?
Oh, we're just on the farm, really. Obviously, the slightly like this year's a bit different, isn't it? Where there's no media to do, isn't it? The last couple of years have been, you've been able to go away on tour. You've been able to do a bit more on the media side. If you're not, I haven't done a huge amount, but this year's has been very strange. It's been home. We're on the farm, so there's loads to do. Like today, we're moving sheep, we're scanning them tomorrow, and then we're sorting a bit of sheep out this afternoon. So there's plenty to do. But on a cricket side, I won't bat until beginning of February. Like 1st of Feb is when I will. So the last time I batted a bit of Lords in that Bob Willis Trophy game, and I'll pick up a bat on the 1st of Feb. And it keeps you really like this way. It's worked really well the last couple of years. Wanting to bat again, picking the bat up in December and January, it doesn't seem, I don't get that excited about it. But when you got February and the season's only 2 months away, there's something really to go for. And it's amazing how well you hit the ball after the first 5 minutes, a bit rusty. That first net, you tend to hit the ball really well because you're so clear of any technical thing because you haven't done it for so long. You just literally think of the most simple thing, which is I'm trying to hit the ball, and it's amazing how well you hit it for that half an hour. If you could kind of bottle that, you'd be all right. But then you start, like everything, you start tinkering, you start thinking what's not quite right, and things can go wrong. But that's so beginning of
doesn't that suggest in a way that at times people practice too much? Actually,
but,
because
I mean, you do say that, but then. To become good, you have this. I don't know anyone who can become good at practicing at doing. You have to do it, don't you? You have to do the hours. There's no other way of doing it, really. In my opinion, the hard thing is practicing right and knowing what to do, practicing right. Because I don't think you can't go away from the hard work. You can't go over the hours you need to hit the ball. But what you can do is bark up the wrong tree and go in the wrong direction. Just on a personal level, like. Everyone remember I changed my technique after the 2009 Ashes series at home, and I went really rigid. I don't know if you remember. Do you remember? I was really, really rigid and put my back. Tried to copy, I suppose, a little bit like Gucci. And actually, I got 3 Test hundreds with it, a couple in Bangladesh and one against South Africa in Durban. But then that next summer, when the ball started moving around against Pakistan and Bangladesh, actually wasn't in 2010, just before the Ashes, I just couldn't buy a run. Because it was just, so for all that practice I was doing, I probably wasn't doing it the right way, but because I didn't get any great results from the end of it. However, without doing that circle, that 6 months of chasing a new technique, you don't realize that what technique you do have is what works best for you. So it's a really interesting thing. And that, you talk about experiencing players, that is certainly one of them.
We had Steve Smith, we've had interviewed recently, actually. And I mean, he's a bit of a sort of exception, I suppose, or a bizarre case. But he says that, he falls asleep at night or tries to fall asleep at night. And he's still thinking about how am I going to get runs against Stuart Broad with a gully and 2 slips and a short extra cover and, a couple of people on the leg side. So he's going to sleep, still visualizing how to make runs. Were you like that in the middle of series and in the middle of matches?
Like I would have said Steve Smith does it or seems to do it every night.
Yeah,
that's what I would like. I think he's that engrossed in it, and
yes, that's true.
And you can, and actually that's probably why he's probably one of the world's best batsmen, isn't he? Or if not out there with Kohli, you'd say in terms of that. That's just a different level. Obviously, during a series, when you're in that high performance mode, of course, whether I'd be going to sleep thinking totally about it, but it's not very far away from your mind very often. It's great when you do get that escapism when you are just talking with your lads and over a beer and going out for dinner, whatever. But there's always, when you're in such a big series, the back of your mind's always there. And I think that's why this summer I think would have been quite tough as a player, and those bubbles, because you just don't get that little escapism for that couple of hours at the end of the night. Just to try and forget about what's going to happen the next day, because it is it's an intense environment. It's an amazing environment. It's never, everyone always talks about how intense and the bad stuff about it, but it is what it is. But in that social bubble, that would have been quite hard just to get those couple of hours when your brain not working. But someone like Steve Smith, he seems like he needs his brain to work, and I don't think he sleeps much, even though
he doesn't. He owns a mattress
company, doesn't he? I think, which is doing very well, which is ironic when he doesn't sleep. Hello,
Simon. Are you there?
I am. It's great. It's great to have everyone with us this evening. Lots of old friends or new old friends, if you see what I mean, and lots of new people as well this evening on Zoom, and lots of questions that you're sending in as well. And actually, here's one from Richard Shelley. We just need everybody to mute themselves, actually. I know most people have, but people who are joining us late, if you can mute yourselves, otherwise we hear your sound, and it's very difficult for everybody else. That's great. Thanks very much indeed. Here's one from Richard Shelley, Alice. He says, you might need a bit of time to think about it. I'm not sure. If you could change one on-field or off-field decision as England captain, what would it be?
Oh. I mean, the on-field one was, I can't remember like anything which is, the game which stands out would be the 2014 Sri Lanka game at Headingley in terms of a tactic where, they were, I mean, I can't remember the scores, but I remember them being level 7 down with Harath and Angelo Matthews in at the crease. And we went to that, the theory was we went to try and starve Matthews of the strike, Harath, try and bowl as many balls as you can at Harath. And so basically have everyone on the boundary to Matthews. And so if he plays like 4 balls, then bring him in and then, try, do you know what I mean? So but be really clear on that. And that's what we tried to do. And actually the first couple of overs worked really well. And I remember it today. He played a massive whooshka, the last ball of an over, trying to hit that boundary because everyone was up. I think it's off Chris Jordan. It might not have been, but it fell just short of second slip. I'm talking inches short of second slip. So, for three or 4 overs, that build of that tactic worked. But then 3.5 hours later, it didn't work on Harath and Matthews. So actually not changing that tactic was probably my worst thing. I think Shane Warne described it as the worst captain he'd ever seen. But that was obviously a mistake. But it shows what fine margin sport is, because if that catch had carried, you can say about lots of things, ifs, woulds, and all that kind of stuff. But if that catch had carried, it was a justifiable technique, but a tactic. But I should have changed it. So I would like to change that thing. But then we wouldn't have had Moeen's brilliant 100 and kind of the drama of the second to last ball of Jimmy Anderson's.
And also, when I think back on all the Test matches that I've watched, I think of that one as one of the greatest games that I've seen. In a way, it was Sri Lanka's 1981 or 2019.
Yeah, brilliant. I'm glad you enjoyed it.
Well, it was. That's, as you know, Alistair, now from sitting up in the commentary box and as you've done of late, you can sort of appreciate the game in a different way. But that game was one of the most spectacular games of Test cricket I think I've ever seen.
Yeah, it was brilliant. But that dressing room moment was a tough one.
Mm. Well, another great moment. Well, I suppose that was a low point, but let's look at the high points for a bit. Let's look at the positives. This day, exactly 10 years ago, I guess you remember what happened.
Well, do you know, I wouldn't have known it unless
I told you.
My mother-in-law told me to this.
Oh, really?
Morning,
well, here we are. Look, let's actually just enjoy it for a minute. So, for those who don't recall it, it was Brisbane. It was 2010. England in the first innings got out for 260, and then Australia got about 400 odd, took a lead, and we were all thinking, "Oh God, here we go again." Ground was packed with baying Queenslanders, thinking, "Right, here's England up for the be hung, drawn, and quartered in the Gabatoir." And you and Trotty and Straussy just basically batted for 2 days. And so let's just look at a little bit of your innings, which is here. So hopefully you can see this. Can you see yourself there?
I can. I've got your screen at the moment.
Can you see that?
I can now, yeah.
So this is just a little bit from that innings. Some traditional shots. This is early in the innings, obviously.
That was day 3, the end of day 3, that was a bit of a Brosey bonus when Marcus North was bowling. We had about 4.
Yeah, I mean, they did have a pretty ordinary spin attack, one has to say, but other than that, this is that's Peter Siddle being put away in familiar style by a Cook. One in the air there, hitting one in the air over the top to get close to your 100. And the crowd at this point still expecting England to fall down and die. There's your first 100 of the innings, 14th of your career. What are you thinking there?
I think I always got to look back at that 100. It's the first. I think it's like the 14th 100.
Yeah.
I think it's the first time I reckon I really delivered in a really, really big match moment for me. Like, yes, so the 100 against, there's obviously every 100 is a big 100. Every time you play for England, is important. But I reckon that was the first time, actually, I got 60 on the first innings on the first day when you win the toss and you bat. And I played quite nicely, actually. I just nibbled at one of Siddle at the start of his hat trick. But that was the first time I thought, yeah, I really delivered when the side really needed to. And again, that gave me a huge amount of belief. I always looked at Stuart Broad, and I still look at Stuart Broad. And incredible, moments of his career always tend to be in the biggest games. The 8th in Ashes we needed, in 13 at Durham. In 2009, actually, I remember looking at it before I'd done it and thought I'd love to do that, and that was the first time I'd say I did it, and it was
let's carry it on a bit. Let's see the second half of the innings.
Yeah, I remember the cut shot because I was on 90 odd at tee, I think.
This is through the hundreds, so nice. I love this actually. Talk us through that shot. That was Mitchell Johnson. We'll just watch that one again.
Right. It would have been nice if the bat hadn't twiddled, but me and Mitchell Johnson. I think what you see in this series, what we couldn't do in the.
I like the eyes here. The eyes following the ball all the way. Most of us would be flinching away from the ball at that pace, but you're watching it right onto the bat.
Yeah, you're not. That's the difference with how many overs they bowled. You get Mitchell Johnson in his 5th, 6th spell down, when they bowled a lot of overs and there's still a big partnership to go, you're going to fancy your chances. But
lovely off drive. Look at this. Talk about footwork. Look at that.
You sound so surprised.
That was Victor Trumper getting his foot down the pitch.
No, it was a good day. It was amazing. As Gucci said, he called it like apart from this Trotty trying to run me out.
And that was the cup. Proudly, you've done your country proud.
So it must have been nice actually to have those two partnerships as well, because it's so important, isn't it? Apart from being able to resist yourself, is building those partnerships with people. What's that like?
Well, what amazing about a big partnership is just how quickly it goes. When you suddenly time just flies by, and suddenly you suddenly see a 50 partnership, and when you both in that kind of rhythm and moment, like suddenly there's 100, 150, you just don't notice it. It just I don't know what we put on 320 maybe on that.
Yeah, I think so.
Like that. Trotty and Strauss are very different to bat with. Strauss is very much more, just chat and keep going, fella. Well, Trotty was very much, he loved batting in 5s. Very if we were on say 83, it's like, let's get to 85, you hit a 4, then you're obviously an 87, come on, let's get to 90. And he does not stop that. That is what he does all the time. So even there, when we're 480 for 1, he was like, let's get to 485. And amazing rigidness and determination to do it. But that last 45 minutes of batting together, if you carried on, I even come down the wicket and hit over the top and stuff.
I have got that. I thought the ball.
But that was that. That's
the trouble is. The trouble about a highlights innings of yours is there's only 3 shots in it.
Oh, thanks, Simon.
At what point did you think the game was safe?
Well, probably when we were, we would have been 400 for 1, wouldn't we? So even if we'd have lost a couple of wickets, to bowl, it was a beautiful wicket. Jesus, the ball deviated. It probably the hardest time to bat was obviously on day 1, but you're not going to do a Nasser and win the toss and bowl, are you? So, that was the time I just kind of held in the surface a little bit moisture, and it just became an absolute road. I didn't move for the straight, and it was just a brilliant play. Yeah, so probably 400 for 1. You thought the work. I remember Flower the day 5. Came up to me. I think I was about 120, 130 odd overnight at the end of day 4, and we're going in day 5. He looked me in the eye and was like, "Buggy, your work's not done yet. You got a long way to go." And I was ready. It got me on edge. So I remember that side we weren't anywhere near clear, but I think probably by an hour after lunch, when we hadn't lost another wicket, then You know, it was probably.
Were you conscious then of the Aussies fans and obviously players losing heart? Because in the end, there was that famous bit towards the end of that partnership when there was hardly any Aussies in the ground, and they were starting to sledge Ponting for posting a short mid-on and things like that.
Yeah, I don't remember that as much. I obviously do that one as much as I do the MCG, where that day, a Boxing Day, when the build up to that game, where we just, you know, the build up, because obviously they'd won in Perth, and this is the turnaround. This is when they were going to come through. We had our moment as a side. We obviously going 1-0 up, and we'd kind of lost that opportunity to the Wacker, and you know, there was Ricky Ponting all over the paper on, you know, 2 days before Christmas Day. You know, this is the great comeback, blah blah blah, and then just on that day to have 100,000, wherever it was, 90,000, you know, as we walked out to bowl, to when Straussy and I were batting 130 odd for naught, when it's just the English in there, 20,000, if that maybe. You know, that I remember that moment, them leaving kind of the support of the Australian side, and that was a, you know, I think we knew then by the end of day one of that game we'd won we kind of retained the Ashes, and that was a real moment, I think, where they kind of lost faith in their Australian side then.
Was that one of your best days Test cricket ever, or perhaps even the best day, or some of those personal landmarks?
Yeah, I mean, that day, and I think obviously headed the Trent Bridge day in terms of the pure aside thing, that Trent Bridge day when we bowled them out for 60 and batting before lunch. I mean, that just doesn't happen, does it? And that, you know, bowled Australia outside, bowled Australia out for 98 and then be 150 for not things like that. Only happen. I played 160 Test matches. It only happened twice. You know what I mean? It happens so few times. But yeah, that clearing the MCG of our batting. Well, me and obviously Straussy would probably clear it most days, but people don't want to pay to watch us bat. But that was as good as it comes.
Actually, funnily enough, I used to enjoy watching you bat, and you know, there were people who said, "Oh, you know, it's a bit boring," but actually, I really enjoyed the precision of certain shots, and also actually your fallibility. Funnily enough, I mean, despite having scored, you know, that amazing number of runs, and you're incredible. And I love watching your concentration as well, to walking away between balls. But the fact that you actually often looked a little bit shaky on the front foot, even, you know, churning out 140, I found that sort of fascinating in a way. But also I loved the clinical nature of your pulling and cutting and how you picked up the ball so early. And actually, Tom Wesley, your county captain now at Essex, was saying to me recently that one of the things that the lads say in the dressing room is they're amazed that you are able to see the ball so clearly with two eyes pointing in different directions.
Very kind of him to say that. And I actually FaceTimed him about an hour ago, and him and he was there, and he didn't mention he mentioned that. So I will give him some stick when I come off here. Yeah, so they call me Woggle. I think I've got my dominant eye in certain photos tends to take over, and it does look like my eyes are a bit wonky, but I don't think they are really in real life. It's just in photos when I'm looking at the ball, which I get hammered for. And
I mean, I think you obviously you prefer. I mean, you know, eyesight is a weird thing, which is very sort of, you know, unique to everyone. You seem to prefer the ball coming up towards your sort of nose or chin or chest or whatever than you do sort of lower down in a way. Is that? Yeah, I reckon. Is that sort of something to do with your vision?
Yeah, possibly. And also, I mean, we played when I was younger. We played on an 11-yard pitch at home in the back garden, and my older brother just used to pretty much bounce me. You probably think that I wasn't going to, like, if you think about, you know, certain things which kind of form you, like on an 11-yard pitch, you are going to get a lot of short pitch bowling, aren't you? Because it's fun. It's half the thing. And I reckon that is probably why I'm more suited on the front. But I reckon now, though, the amount, especially over the last 3 or 4 years of like the Test cricket and in England, and obviously a bit more county cricket I've played, I think my front foot play now is as good as it's ever been. And I think I reckon I've forgone some of my back foot shots. I don't pull the ball as well as I used to. I can pull a ball for one a bit, and I remember looking back on some certain stuff in 2006. Brett Lee was bowling the Wacker, and I was pulling him in front of square. He used to get it down on a quick wicket, and I was comfortable doing it. I don't reckon I could do that anymore. Like, obviously I couldn't, but like in terms of, I don't think I can play that pull shot in front of square at the whacker, but I reckon I could drive the ball better. So, you know, for someone who's a little bit limited like I was, as you say, the fallibility on the front foot, I think if you're working on one area, you kind of forgo another. And I reckon because in general, people don't bowl that many short balls at me anymore, I reckon
that's part of the reason, isn't it? We're out of habit of facing them. But would you say, sorry, I'll let Simon ask a question in a second. Would you say that it's better to work on your strengths and sort of leave your weaknesses a little bit alone? Or is it better to build up your weaknesses and therefore you're slightly neglecting your strengths?
It's a brilliant question, because everyone says you should work on your weaknesses, but we had a thing, actually, Andy Flower brought it in, that what makes you a world-class, what's your world-class strengths as a player? So certain players, well, actually all of us, if you looked at that top order of Cook, Strauss, Bell, Peterson, Collingwood, Pryor, if I've missed any, Trott, sorry, every one of them had a world-class area. You know, you look, Matt Pryor, anything on a test match thing, just outside off stump, he would have the ability to go, you know, carve it through the offside. Ian Bell's cover drive, world class. Jonathan Trott of his legs, world class. Straussy cutting, you know, all that, and we focused on that a lot more in that period of our dominance than we did our weaknesses. And I think it's a case of that we made a big shift on that. Obviously, you have to. And then what we did with our weaknesses was be aware of them, and of course you've got to monitor them and you've got to keep training on them, but don't get fixated by trying to fix your weakness. If you're aware of them and how you do it, like as you said, like I was fallible on the front foot, especially early on in my career, early on in my innings, any innings, more fallible. Doesn't mean like, so I would play a miss. I wouldn't get my weight into the ball like I should perfectly every single time, but it's being aware of it and realizing the dangers when you do play a cover drive, or do you know what I mean? And it's being able to work that into your technique. I always looked at Dravid as a great example. Like Dravid did kind of fiddle with the ball outside or stump on the 4th, 5th stump. That's where you looked to bowl at him. He was, and he played it like, you know, sometimes he nicked it, of course, but he played it some weird, like jabbing, like trying to ride it a little bit, not totally in the perfect book, in the perfect technical book, but he knew how to deal with that, and he kind of overcome it all the time. And I think it's a great way of looking about it. Work on your strengths as well, but no, hammer your strengths just as much as being aware of your weaknesses.
How much do you have to work on your weaknesses then? I mean, that's really fascinating actually to concentrate on your strengths, but I mean, if your weakness is constantly getting you out, then
well, of course, I mean, but there you are. That's the balance, isn't it? That is the absolute balance of what you're. You know, we spoke earlier about how many hours you do of training and stuff, or what you do training. Trying to get that absolutely right, and being like now, I think, you know, the word experience about as a player, the experience you've gained over you. I just know, you know, how to manage my weakness, if that makes sense. I'll never get the perfect cover drive ever. And I know there'll be certain times I don't bend my front knee as well as I should do. But, you know, it's being aware of it. And as long as you can allow it into your technique. And so obviously it's slightly different if a 19-year-old, 20-year-old comes in. If you've got such a big area, just say, prime time, you can't play a short ball, then you've got an issue. Then you have to work on it. So doesn't mean you've got to hook and pull everything for 6 and 4, but you have to be able to realize that weakness and make sure it doesn't flag up so much that it becomes such a glaring thing for opposition to bowl.
We asked for your questions as well, and lots of people with us this evening. It's great to have you with us. Here's one from Keith. We saw your 2-3-5 earlier, and you made, 5 double hundreds in Test cricket. He says, what was your most accomplished non-3-digit score that stands out? And an innings where you actually weren't playing for a draw, where I know a good 70 was worth 180 or whatever, was potentially match winning.
Yeah, I actually think probably in that last series maybe, or last series, or this 2017, I got an 80 at the Oval. And that was a seriously tough wicket against, I think it was Philander. Morkel's definitely playing because he got me out. Philander, Morkel, whether Stain was there, but a decent attack. And the ball nibbled. The ball nibbled a long way consistently out of the game. And I got 80 odd. And I reckon that was worth 140, 150 for in terms of, I think Stokes to get 100 in that game. You guys
is that the game? Is that in the last series that you played against South Africa? Yeah, you did. And he was coming down the wicket to Philander, wasn't he?
Yeah, that was kind of day 2, and I think we only played 40 odd over 50, maybe 50, 60 overs on day 1 because there was some rain about. And I reckon that I actually had a bruise on my calf, on the front of my calf, which to get hit there is quite unusual. It must have nipped a long way. So I remember that innings thinking, actually, I worked bloody hard for an 80 there. And I didn't get 100, but it was a satisfying. It wasn't very pretty at all. It was a proper grind, but yeah.
But you remember, actually, I remember you saying that sort of couple of years before you retired is probably what prompted you to retire. The ball moved around in England and was harder to bat against than you'd ever remembered, really.
Yeah, it just suited our style of bowling, didn't it? In terms of for us to win games of cricket, that was the way we had to go. And that's no disrespect for any of our bowlers or anything. They go above their ability to hit line and length is incredible. James Anderson, we obviously know how good he is. Stuart Broad. That doesn't mean they can't bowl on flat ones at all. But we'd always back ourselves to out-bowl the opposition on those kind of wickets. Mitchell, you'd much rather face like Mitchell Johnson on those wickets than you would someone who can just hit the same area over and over and let the pitch do the work. And how good those guys are, they just don't miss length. So for us to get 20 wickets, we struggled to get 20 wickets on an absolute road. We didn't have that point of difference in that time. We had a lot of people who could bowl 83 miles an hour, 84 miles an hour, hitting it. Like you could name Woakes, Broad, Anderson. You can just keep naming those bowlers. And so to win test matches, we went on that kind of way, and it became incredibly hard. And I do think the drainage system in England has made a massive, massive difference to it. No groundsman has it. No groundsman, they said, no, can't do. But it's the only common thing I think, which could be totally rubbish, that drainage system in the outfield to get pitches, which you either get a green wicket with the live grass on it, which then zips and carries through, or if you take it all off, all the grass off, it just becomes dead featherbed, and you get, you do get some of the odd pitch, certainly, where it just becomes a featherbed and it's impossible to bowl sides out. But when I swear, when I first remembered playing Test cricket in England, even county cricket, the pitches were whiter and harder, and the ball carried through a bit more. So there's a bit in it for the bowlers, and they didn't die. The pitches now, they just die. 2 heavy rollers, and they just die. They just don't carry to the slips. And that's the only thing I can think is the drainage systems, obviously, because people want to watch cricket, and when it's raining, they don't want to see puddles in the outfield. That has to have had an impact on our squares. So to keep the ball carrying to slips and all that, have to leave live grass on. You leave live grass on it, it nips around, and that's what I think the kind of conundrum is.
Well, Keith says he thought that innings of 80. He said that was the one he had in mind when he asked the question.
Oh, right.
Just on
great minds.
Sorry.
Great minds.
Indeed, yeah. Well done, Keith. Alex Gaywood, we talked about the 235. Was that your? This is his question. Was that your? When you look back, was that your best innings? You said, it was the innings where you thought I really delivered here for the first time. Was that the innings when someone said to you, what was the best test innings you played? Would that be it, or was it so flat that you thought, actually I made runs in a tougher situation?
Well, I don't think it's too much of a tougher situation than the first test match of an Ashes series when you're 217 runs behind and you'd fielded for 2 days. And I'm just saying. So actually, I think it's very easy to think I was a flat wicket because we got 517 for 1. That it was easy. Imagine. I remember going out to bat and Straussy on a pair, left that first straight one from Hilton House.
Yeah.
The crowds. Yeah. So very easy to look back at that. I probably think the best I ever batted probably in that test match was that 244 at Melbourne. Actually, I think just as an innings, I know I was dropped a couple of times, but actually some of the shots I played and the way I played, I thought that's probably the best. I don't know, Kolkata maybe 190, that 190. That's stupid.
Actually, I picked out your Armada bad innings as well. I thought that 100 was actually very good.
It's nice to have that option of being able to, 1 or 2 you can't actually remember, but it's hard to judge them.
Well, actually, I was working on Indian TV on that India series, and both Sourav Ganguly and Rahul Dravid, I think both said at the time that 100 you made in Ahmedabad was the best ever 100 they'd seen by an overseas batsman.
Really?
So yeah, there's some compliments for
Yeah,
you.
I reckon. I reckon the 190 at Kolkata was just like that was. I mean,
Yeah.
apart from getting run out, I mean again, it's all cricket's such a stupid sport. I remember walking off there because everyone remember. I think it was KP actually hit the ball at square leg, and Kohli just picked up and threw it down non-striker's end. There was no chance of a run. We weren't even running, and I just, talk about brain fade of all brain fades. I just lifted up the bat, thinking it's just, I didn't want to get hit. I didn't want the ball to hit my bat. I don't know why. Lifted the bat up, obviously hit the stumps. I was run out 190, and you just think. I remember walking off there after, I don't know how long that innings was, but I just, why? How did I do that? I sat there with a towel on my head, almost embarrassed myself. And that shouldn't be. You walk 190, you should be quite, you should be quite happy. You take that every time you walk out. Of course you would, but I was embarrassed. How do I do such a stupid thing?
Let's get some of our lovely guests on screen here. Will Gould, I've got on my list, has asked a question, which sort of goes back to the 2010 Ashes. Will, can we get you on the screen, or can you if you unmute your mic, and hopefully you'll appear on screen. There he is. Will, do you remember your question?
Hi there, Cookie.
Hi.
Hi there, how are you?
I'm very well. You?
Yeah, I'm very good, thank you. Sorry, I'm just trying to find my question.
It was to do with the 2010-11 Ashes.
11.
What is it about Zoom calls? You have to be with little bookcases behind you. I just love it. I mean,
well, you obviously haven't read a book in your life, have you?
Exactly. Wouldn't read any of yours.
Oh,
It's actually not. That is actually very unfair. Because I used when I was young, I used to love the Hard Jacket books. Oh, loved it.
Right, here we go, Cookie. Sorry, I've found it after the months of scrolling. What was your favourite moment about the 2010-11 series, apart from scoring all those runs and batting batting in Brisbane?
Yeah, I think the Adelaide 100 was actually to back that up, to get 235 and finish on Monday, and then to back it up there with 140 odd there. That first hour at Adelaide was incredible. You lose the toss and you think, God, we're going to be in for a long day here. And then I can't. Your man, were they 3 for 4?
Yes, yeah.
Yeah,
they were 2 for 3. 2 for 3, I think.
Yeah, because they got 2. Yeah, that was it. 2 for 3. Obviously Trotty's run out. That first 5 minutes, or probably 10 minutes in the end, was just the most incredible. Yeah. I look back on that tour, and it was before real social media took part. And obviously, when you win in Australia, just the amount of good times we had off the field. Obviously, when you're winning games of cricket and you get to celebrate, and there was a lot less, people weren't chasing everything with camera phones in terms of, having a, if you're having a picture of beer and stuff, that they're going to send it in to people, the papers, or put it on Twitter, and everyone had kick up a fuss about it. So it was probably the last most relaxed tour that kind of way. And obviously, when you're winning, it was incredible. Actually, but the bit which have you seen The Edge is when we sat on the edge. We sat on the SCG as a group of players there, and the footage didn't quite do it justice. But we sat there for probably an hour and a half now, just talking as a squad of not just the players, but obviously the backroom staff. And obviously, for me, on a personal thing, I'd come from a very poor tour before a 4 series summer before that, to sit there 3 and 4 months later with the Compton medal there, just thinking, how strange is this game, and just seeing those lads there sitting there talking about their experience of the 3 months. That was an incredibly special time thing, and that's actually the one moment I'd go back to. Not kind of the last half an hour there, we're probably getting a bit frustrated because they put on a few pointless runs, but that hour, that 2 or 3 hours in the change room there, going out to the SCG was the moment of that tour for me.
I think that's what Straussy said actually about that tour as well. Let's work through a couple more questions. And if you can, Catherine, Brian Holland, and Ian Wigston, if you can be ready with your questions in a minute, we'll have you up, if that's all right. Robin Learmont says, my main question, having read Alistair's autobiography, have you read it yourself, by the way?
Pardon?
Have you read your autobiography yourself?
I wrote it, Simon.
Okay, right. Okay. Fine. I thought it was ghosted by Michael. What's his name?
Calvin, it was, but
Mike
you
Calvin, yeah.
read it. I mean,
Okay, right. Well, there's the Pete Beefy hasn't read some of his. I tell you, I bet you're a better man than him. Anyway, Robin says,
have you read it, Simon?
I've read some of it. Yeah.
Did you like it or not?
Yeah, I did actually. Yeah, I mean, I always find them interesting. I always think that. Yeah, no, I did. I enjoyed it. I didn't get to the end actually, but I read a lot of it. Yeah.
They light a fire nicely if you need them.
So he says, anyway, this is Robin Limont. He says, what role Graham Gooch played in your career as your coach and mentor? He was so hot on fitness and concentration. So was that his big influence on you?
Well, do you know, I reckon the biggest influence, apart, you talk about the hard work and all that kind of thing is a bit of a bygone. But, it's kind of quite infamous in our sessions. We'd train, like Gucci's talk about early birds. He's up at 4:30 almost every morning, and he's asleep by 9 every night. He's that way, and But so we did a lot of our sessions from 7:30 to 9 in the morning. He'd dog stick for an hour and a half with a lot of running, fitness inside that kind of session. But you know what? The biggest thing for me was just knowing that the bloke who you're talking to, it was in exactly the same position as you were. He opened the batting for England, he opened the batting for Essex, and he captained England. And just being able to sit there and just talk to him about it. And it wouldn't be like, it's not stuff which would be incredible. It's just that reassurance. It's just that reassurance for me, like, as a thing. And actually the biggest, like, you talk about the things that he said, his big thing, when he got out, he used to he'd sit there, his pads on. He'd probably get 100 most times, but he'd have his pads on and sit there. And his way of getting out was just answering his post, for example, just being relaxed. And I remember when sometimes I played a bad shot and stuff, he would never bollock me for it, ever, or ever like give you that, like, he would just sit there. He would just, like, as long as he knew that I knew I'd made a mistake, or he'd be like, there's always runs tomorrow. And that kind of attitude of there's always runs tomorrow kind of really rubbed off for me, I think. It's like always
encouraging you the whole time.
Pardon?
Encouraging you the whole time.
Yeah, yeah, he was. It was more just that reassurance that, like, yeah. Just, I mean, to have he was my hero. He was the bloke I used to go and watch at Essex, the guy I watched on England on TV, and that, that wanting him to do well. Then to have him like throwing balls at you at 7:30 in the morning, the amount of runs he had was just incredible. So yeah, I was very, very lucky.
What was that? Was that the sort of proudest moment in a way? One of your most proud moments when you went past him? Then Test runs.
Well, actually, James Foster texted me saying, he texted me and he said, well, now you don't have to listen to a word he says. But yeah, yes, it was surreal. Very, very surreal. I think it was a cover drive, wasn't it? Off Tim Southey, I think the moment was where I did it. And to think you scored more runs than him was a very, very strange moment.
Simon, do you want to get Simon? Do you want to look up the non screen questions, and I'll get Catherine Goebel. If you're there, Catherine, I know you've been in and out of the club a little bit, but are you there, Catherine? If you want to unmute yourself and ask your question, great.
Firstly, what prompted your decision to retire from England and go back to scoring runs for Essex? And following on from that, what is there left to achieve, in your opinion?
Well, what prompted me to stop playing for England was that for me to be the best player I could become was throwing everything all in. It was those, hundreds of balls you're hitting, the hours you're putting in the gym, and having something to really strive for. And ultimately, towards the end, I didn't have that. I probably hit slightly less balls than I should have done. I didn't have anything really I didn't have anything left for me to go and achieve again. And it was about an 18-month process. Actually, that last 18 months, I remember talking to a bloke called Mark Borden, who's a psychologist who'd done so much work. He was involved in the England team, and then when he left, he still work with me. And we tried to get stuff to get to get me going again, and try and nothing fell out, and nothing grabbed me, and I felt like I was just playing for playing's sake. And really, it's really sad because you're playing for England and it should be the be all and end all, and it is the be all and end all, but I just didn't have that that last 2%, which I had all my career. I remember lying there in New Zealand, actually, in that tour just after the Ashes. Obviously, I struggled in the Ashes apart from that double 100, and I struggled on that pink ball tour. Sort of 2 test match tour, it's kind of over before it started. I think I made double figures, and I remember talking to Chris Silverwood, and I was almost ready to go then, and he persuaded me, hang in there, and just give yourself more time. And I tried again. So I just ultimately, like, you look in the mirror, and I was done with it. And it's a really, really sad place to be, because handing your cap back in was it. And obviously there was talk, people saying, a couple of people I spoke to about it, why don't you have a sabbatical, why don't you take a 6 months off? But there's just something didn't seem right for me, because I wasn't playing a huge amount of cricket. I wasn't, like, with just being a test match player, you're playing 12, 13 games a year. So it's not as if you're, snowed under with stuff to do. So it wasn't, I just didn't think going away for 7 months would recreate it. I think playing for England, you had to be all in, and also it'd have been a bit of a strange situation for A, the guys coming in, and B, the question's still there. Are you going to come back? And it just didn't seem right. So I thought it was a clean break was the best thing for me. And it's horrible in one sense, actually, saying you don't want to play for England again after loving it for as long as I did. And the reason I want to play for Essex, because it's a big thing never to hit a ball again, isn't it? When you walk off playing for England, that cricket's such a big part of your life, just to suddenly go done. And I chatted to, again, when I was making a decision, I chatted to a couple of people in that situation, and a couple of them, not all of them, a couple of them said, I'd love to have played a bit of county cricket, just so you can kind of manage that process of being a, international cricket player to not being a cricket player. That kind of your identity had gone. So, and I genuinely love playing for Essex. There's really good people there. So that's, that enjoyment, that was an easy decision in my sense.
Here's a question from Scott Moody before we get one or two more of you on screen. Scott doesn't want to come on screen, but just very, very quickly, just one word answer to these first two. Who's the best fast bowler you've faced? Is that Ryan Harris?
He'll be up there. The one, I can't do one word answers on this one. It depended how well I was playing. Genuinely, like if I was playing well, and I'm just saying, I reckon I would have no qualms of facing anyone. Ever. Like, I just thought, if I had a lot of moving parts of my technique. As soon as my technique was out and someone could hammer that kind of thing, in general, towards the end, people coming around the wicket and shaping the ball away, right or left arm, I found that hardest.
Okay. And then another question from Scott. It's a really interesting question. He said, a friend of mine asked Sir Don Bradman, what did he use to get himself out of a bad run of form? And Sir Donald answered, don't know, never experienced a bad run of form. If my friend were to ask you the same question, what advice would you give them? How did you get out of a bad run of form? Well, what do you do?
Well, see, now, because I feel as if I know my game pretty well, it's just right, go back to practice of the simple little things. So it'd be like, I'll go back to hitting underarms. I'll go back to the simple thing. Is my head in the right position? Is my head going back to where the ball's going from? Can I hit the ball straight, back where it comes from? And just basically just work on that. That's all I do. I'll just work on that. And then it's more of a mental thing, isn't it? Like that, because ultimately your technique doesn't change a huge amount. You look at people sitting in the screen of say balls they nicked or something, like they nicked off to second slip, and you see them slow mode in the ball. Actually, ironically, nicking a ball to second slip isn't as bad as a player miss, because ultimately you're doing something you're actually hitting the ball. So you should actually look at the player misses and think, what are you doing there? But you don't. You look at the ball you nicked off. So the mental thing of being able to stay very strong and actually stay in the moment of just being able to focus on this ball coming. And that's a very hard skill. It's a very easy cliche thing to do, because when you're out of form, all you're thinking about is the negative thoughts, the bloke on your shoulder saying how bad you are. You've got no runs. You haven't got any runs for ages. You're going to get dropped. All that. That's just a quick thing on your shoulder. The bloke's telling you. So being able to manage that and just say, right, I'm just going to focus on this ball, and knowing that your technique is in a good enough place to hit the ball straight. And if you can do that, and the ability to grind that first half an hour to get in, can you get in? Even if you're on 3 or 4 runs, for me, like some people, I remember listening to Graham Thorpe once said, if he was struggling for 4, he'll try and hit every ball for 4. the first, if you're struggling for form, you're trying to hit every ball for 4 that first shoot. Because if you got up to 20, is kind of a way. That was his way of doing it. My way would be, all right, can I bat for half an hour? Can I literally just somehow survive? Not even right about my feet. Can I survive for half an hour? It's amazing when you spend a little bit of time in the middle, that rhythm can come back quite quickly.
Simon, have you managed to get one or two on screen now?
Well, let's go with Ian Wigston. Ian, Ian Wigston, can you unmute yourself if you're there? If you remember your question, do you?
Yes, I do. Alistair, great to have you with us.
Hi. Sorry, it's 3 days too late.
Not at all. Not at all. Essex fan here.
Oh.
It's said that the focus and concentration you needed to practice when you were at school as a chorister, alongside regular school hours, has helped you with your batting.
Yeah.
Could you expand on that, please?
Yeah, I mean, I think it's pretty well documented. Apart from my farming, I was a choir boy when I was younger, from 8 to 13 at St Paul's Cathedral, and for me, the concentration things is used to being able to perform under pressure. From a very early age, I was put in services where, Monday to just on a regular week, I sang on a service Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Friday, 1 on Saturday, and probably 2 on Sunday. That's 7 times a week you're performing in front of people. Yes, you're not performing on your own. I was never that much of a soloist, but still performing. You can't make mistakes. The standard was very high. So you're used to performing in front of people. And then in certain days you were performing on TV, or you're at the Royal Albert Hall, or whatever you're doing, in massive occasions. But the music never changed, did it? The music is the same whether you're sitting, and the music doesn't change. It's I know it's very different to cricket, because obviously when you're batting, a lot of variables. Like if a bowler bowls an absolute jaffer, as we'll go back to Ryan Harris in 2013, that ball, I would never hit that ball 100 times. If people bowl that 100 times in a row, I'd get naught every single time. But obviously the music doesn't change, and there's no reason why you should make mistakes. So I was used to very early age being able to just kind of almost ignore everything happening, whether there's 20 people in the service or 100, 1,000 and on TV, and just being able to concentrate on reading the music and being able to sing. I suppose that goes to the cricket, doesn't it? Like every time I went up to the next level, or I was playing a club game, or then I went up to the next level under 18, then I played England 19, is irrelevant for me who was playing, who was watching. I had that ability to be able to focus on that ball. And I think that is what I meant by it. That's kind of what I meant by the thing, and just been doing it time and time again. You kind of get used to it. I'm not going to get me wrong. There was days where I didn't concentrate as well as I could have done, and the bloke on my shoulder or the occasion got better of me. But I kind of won that battle more times than I didn't.
Talking of music, do you remember this?
God, yeah. So was that Free Phonics, wasn't it? I think that was.
Yeah.
There's
playing some tune.
There's my wonky eye.
God, wow.
You looked happy. Must have sounded dreadful.
Yeah, I think I was struggling with the accompaniment, or maybe the end of your sax was a bit too near my ear or something. What about Annie Chave? Are you here? And can you unmute yourself?
I'm here. Yeah.
Great.
Hello,
Hi, Annie. Hi.
Hello, Alistair.
Hi.
Hello. Well, you kind of answered my question a little bit, but
Well, go on. Use some journalistic license and spin it.
Okay. A lot of players, when they retire from international cricket, retire from county cricket, but obviously, because it's partly because they don't feel it's competitive enough. What are your thoughts in that? And do you just stay at Essex so you can hammer Somerset all the time?
She's a Somerset fan, obviously. So.
It's amazing how it's just finished out the last couple of years, hasn't it? It's for an Essex fan anyway. Essex player. Look, as I said earlier about it's a big hole to fill, and I wanted to go back and kind of taper off a little bit. And ultimately, the guys at Essex, I know people say it's a family club, but there's guys who I've played so much cricket with. If Ravi was still there, I know he left last year. I played against Ravi when I was 11 and played with him since I was 12. And, the amount of cricket, yes, we don't talk to each other every day on the phone and stuff, but the amount of cricket we've played together. And I wanted to go back and experience. Someone like Ryan Tenduskartu came on the staff at 18 with pretty much the same time as me. That's quite a long time to play cricket with someone, and I hadn't actually. It's a long time, but I haven't played a huge amount with him because I was always dipping in and out.
And do you
actually,
think
when
it's
they won,
competitive enough though?
but then.
Do you think county cricket is competitive enough?
Yeah, it's very competitive. It's very competitive. Actually, county cricket gets a pretty bad name. Well, it has done. People hammer it because what they see of the lack of crowds. But I can tell you that some of the cricket played, certainly in those, in the top division of playing that first division. I know it's not quite the same now, but the standard is very high. Some very good cricketers playing in it, and some people who know what they're doing. And it wasn't like, you think how many people came in. Jonathan Trott learnt his cricket and county cricket, came and done really well. Like how many people came in that period and done, county cricket delivered James Anderson, like Ian Bell. There's a serious amount of good players. It just obviously gets a little bit of bad name because they see that, on a Wednesday afternoon at certain grounds, there's no one watching it. But there's some cricket. There are some very good cricket, and it's slightly different. Like the Darren Stephen example of yes, he's not bowling at 100 mile an hour, but actually your technique to be able to survive against that. Certainly now, I think it went a little bit OTT when you had the Tiflex ball, and you used to leave grass on it like this long, and it became. I remember facing once where I reckon he bowled 5 balls at me, and I missed every one by about 3 foot. And then the fifth one nipped back, and I was absolutely stone dead. I thought it's probably gone a little bit too right. And Jesse Ryder opened the bowling for Essex, and just, it was like bowling, just bowling a minefield. It was a bit of a joke. But now I think with that heavy roll and all that kind of stuff changing, and you could, if you wanted to bowl first, you could. It definitely evened itself out better. And also it's because there's less draws to win games of cricket is like, 2.5, 3 day cricket is, I think it's been good.
What do you think, Annie?
Well, you know what I think. So I think that county cricket at the moment is really, really fascinating to watch. And I think certainly the battles between Essex and Somerset have been something else recently.
Well, I mean, it's great. Isn't it? I know, like we're going to talk about, there's 2, I'll say, slightly smaller counties who try to promote their own in general. In general, that is their ethos of where. And obviously, Somerset have racing to Essex, and we might have just had that edge over the last couple of years. But it might not ever. It won't stay like ever. I think it's probably a slow burner at Somerset. Some of the players they're producing are fantastic.
Yeah, I mean they're both very similar ethos to each other.
Well, nothing else to do in Chelmsford or Taunton but play sport, really.
Well, there's a lot to do, Simon.
Sorry, that's a bit unfair. Simon, have you got another one?
Yeah, here's one from Mally, actually. Yeah, excellent, Annie. Here's one from Mally. You still touched on your life after Test cricket and playing county cricket, but he says, what do you want to do after that? Do you want to be a coach or a commentator, or do you want to run the sport?
It's a really good question, which I actually don't know the answer to. If I did, I think the issue a little bit at the moment is obviously the amount of time I was away for that period, for 13, 14 years. I was away for such a lot of that I've enjoyed being able to be at home a lot more. I'm not sure my wife might think I might get in the way a lot, but I've enjoyed being at home. I think if you like all those jobs, you have to be, to do it properly, like a coach. You're way more than a player. You are, because the hours you do, to be a good coach, you are like anything. You're all in all the time. And obviously, if you're running the game, talking to Straussy about it, you are, you work, very, very hard. And I'm not saying I don't want to work hard, but while I've got really young children, I feel as if I want to be at home. And, I'm still pretty young, so I don't feel any doors shut on it. And if something grabs me in a couple of years' time, after Essex is finished, then, I'll go hot. But at the moment, this little transition period is okay.
Do you like commentating?
I do. I know. I've been lucky to see some amazing cricket. The problem with commentating is it's not whether you want to do it; it's whether your employers think you're any good at it or the public like you. So you don't really get that. As a batsman, you know whether you've done a good job or not, don't you? You look at how many runs you scored. That's a good point. Yeah. Ultimately, as a journalist or a commentator, you can be in 1 minute and out very quickly. And the same as a coaching, it's very short. And it is very subjective. So, but yeah, just to be able to witness some of the cricket I've seen actually in my couple of years has been very lucky.
Yeah, that's true, isn't it? There's no benchmark. There's no way of measuring really how
No.
well you're doing, except, you know, whether, as you say, people say nice things, I suppose. This is a good question. Alex Gaywood, before we come to the quiz, which we'll come to in a minute, Alex Gaywood says a lot is made of bowlers bowling in partnerships, but how important is knowing your batting partner? Do you feel the constant changing of your fellow opener after Strauss' retirement affected your game?
No, so it didn't affect my game one little bit, because the only thing if you have a real solid start, I think not talking about the players. If it's a team, if you're 40 for none a lot, the opposition feel that thinking it's going to be a very long day in the field, and their energies. There's a bowler, you'll know as a bowler, that's a long time ago, but thinking, oh, Jesus, it's going to be a long day. I've got a lot of miles to do, and you just naturally just hold in a little bit. You don't quite bowler that. Is more of like, all right, I'm just going to stick in here and just stick in it. But if the opposition are 30 for 3 a lot, you think, actually, I've got the chance here we can bowl them out today. We haven't got 150 overs in the dirt. We've only got 80 to do. So in that way, I reckon that affected it in one sense. But, you know, I was out just as many times as the other bloke, so I can't use that as a thing. And also, you bat with so many people, don't you? You bat so many times with different people. No, I didn't just bat with Straussy, obviously Trotty, and then I went back to Essex and batted Essex. So I think there's more, maybe the only bit might have affected was the fact that we never didn't have those consistent, solid starts. But do you know what? It didn't affect me.
Who did you actually most enjoy batting with?
You know, I had no thing at all. Everyone had their different kind of things. Trotty, that meticulous fives worked well for that bit. I enjoyed batting with Trotty there. Straussy, obviously, we had a good thing. KP, I just had to sit back and react and relax. And not relax in one sense. We actually, I think we scored quite a lot of runs together because we were so different. Like, he wanted to be the peacock strutting around, taking on the opposition. And he kind of took all the attention away from me. I kind of just slid under the radar. I got his singles going back on strike. And he nothing less than, all he wanted to do was be on strike. So I didn't mind if I didn't face the ball for like 30, 20, 30 balls, because it didn't bother me, but he wouldn't like that. So actually we had a lot of good partnerships together. So but anyway, anyone you build a partnership, Nick Brown, we get 380 once for Essex and stuff. So yeah, it don't really matter who. Anytime you score runs, the partnership's good.
Simon, one more.
Well, I mean, a few people have asked about KP this evening, so I might as well ask the KP question on behalf of quite a few people who've asked it.
This is where my internet goes wrong.
Let's not dwell on it too long. We're going to do the quiz in just a moment, which I know you're looking forward to because you love your stats and things like that.
But I love how I get. Graham Swan has accused me of loving my stats, but he loves it more than anyone else. That's what he
well, we'll find out in 3 days.
Yeah. Well,
is he on as well? Is he?
He's on next Thursday. Yeah.
Yeah, he is. That's a great.
He'll act.
It's a great diversion going on to Swan. What about KP, Alistair? I mean, do you regret what happened? Do you get on well with him now? Have you made up? What's the situation?
I haven't really seen him much, to be honest with you, since that meeting in 2014. Look, I do regret. I regret the situation cricket found itself in. Actually, I think it was, as a to be part of a decision where cricket is on the back page and the front page for all the wrong reasons. I do regret that. I think that was, but I don't regret the decision at the time, if that makes sense. Every decision I've made as a captain, even going back to when I captained badly, I was making that decision. Again, that's not, we'll talk KP in a minute, but every decision I made, I tried to make for the good of the English cricket team. That KP thing became ugly because it was kind of, I felt as if I got marked out as the only person who made that decision a little bit. And it became a bit of a KP versus Cookie. It wasn't that. It was obviously I was part of that decision. And You'd love to sit and it'd be interesting to sit and chat with KP now. I mean, there's a lot. I think there's so much water under the bridge now, and I saw him actually at Australia, England semi-final World Cup, and it was we had a genuine nice 5-minute chat because we spent 10 years playing cricket together and got on absolutely fine. Obviously, when you get a bit of leadership and there's a bit of you're trying to make a decision, about the England cricket team, thinking whether he was best in it or not at that certain time. Of course, there's going to be some frictions, but I regret that it was handled the way it was handled. I don't regret the decision, and I think in hindsight, if powers could be, and we could have made different decisions on it of the fallout and the thing, you'd always think it'd be better. Because I regret the fact that it was over the papers for the wrong reasons, but it is what it is, and life has to have to move on.
Well, there you go. Lots of people asking about KP tonight.
Thanks for answering that.
Thanks very much.
I don't know if I answered well or not. Again, that's the total silence on Zoom, isn't it? You just like you think, oh God, is that right or wrong?
Well, it is a bit of clapping for you, all right.
No,
well, good answer.
Just on the KP thing, it was a tough captain, and I didn't score any runs. And the moment Andy Strauss came aboard, it's no coincidence that as soon as he came aboard, he was unequivocal. This is the right decision to do, and it kind of the whole thing died down. That I then scored runs. I scored about my first 100 in 18 months. So it did affect me, and it's the only thing I reckon mentally I couldn't. Dealing with all that external stuff, I just couldn't quite get it right on the field, really.
Right. Okay. The spotlight's going to be on your knowledge now of yourself. This quiz is how well do you know yourself?
Well, you're going to get an easy one first up. I know that.
Well, so first we have a bit of music just to get you in the swing of it. Okay. Right. And then what I've got to tell you is this is the leaderboard. Okay. There. So this is what you got to beat.
It was not surprising they had 2 of them.
Well, but they had half each, so it wasn't collaboration because they were in different places.
All right.
So, there was no conferring really. Anyway, so Mark Wood in second with Tuffers, Rudy third, Broady, pretty poor effort by Broad really.
It just depends, doesn't it, what the answer, how hard the questions are going to be, isn't it? Obviously.
Yeah. Right. Well, so Simon, do you want to kick off? By the way, if you get it right, you get one of these.
He's got it. You love it, don't you? You or DJ. You just want to press.
And if you get it wrong, it's one of those. Right? Okay.
Are you allowed to Google them?
No.
You only get 10 seconds per question. Right. So 8 to beat. Simon, off you go. Clock's ticking.
Right. Here's the first question. This is a gentle half volley for you.
Okay.
How many tests did you win as England captain? You captained England 59 times. How many tests did you win?
It's not a good start. So I'll come back to that one. Move on. I'll think about that.
Well, okay. Oh, well, okay. Well, I'll tell you what. We'll give him a bit of time to think about it. We will come back to it. Right. Second question.
So what was the question? You started in a different order.
I'm sorry.
No. Okay. Well, here's an easier one then. So we'll come back to that one. Who dismissed you in your first class innings?
Can't swear. Well, no, I always. Oh my gosh. Chris Cairns?
Well, no. It was his opening partner.
Don't know.
Okay.
It's not a good start, this.
Charlie Shrek.
Wouldn't have got it.
Okay.
Question number three. Well, this is a true or false question. So you've got a 50-50 chance of getting this right. You captained England 59 times, as I mentioned. Still not quite sure how many of them you won. You won the toss more times than you lost it. True or false? You captained England 59 times. You won the toss more times than you lost it. True or false?
True.
Yours? It's false. You won 28 and you lost 31.
Yeah.
Right, so
You're-
that's,
I'm going to start picking faults in this quiz. Because
Naught out of 2.
When you don't flick the coin.
right, 0 out of 2. Okay. We seem to have gone slightly at a different order here, but anyway, how many runs did you score in your 100th Test match?
I got 0 in the second innings.
Correct. I'll give you half a mark for that.
It's Perth, isn't it?
Yeah.
My 100's not. Where's my 150? Was in Perth as well, wasn't it? I think.
Mm.
I'm gonna 70, 67. So I got caught. I know I got caught. Did David Warner catch me with Nathan Lyon? A cut shot.
I don't know. Stop trying to test us out. You're the quiz.
No, that's
person.
right. I know that's right. Because I thought, how have I done that? I don't know. 71.
We'll give you that.
Oh,
We'll give you that.
76.
We'll give you that. 72 actually. 72. We'll give you that.
You're just being like kind now.
Yeah. Well, that's so. You've got, what is that? 1 out of 3 so far.
Yeah. I'm going to go 22 Test match wins.
22 Test match wins.
I hope it's more, otherwise it sounds worse. How many was it? 20.
24. Close, but not close enough.
I thought that was
Next question. You scored 776 runs in the 2010-11 Ashes series. What was your lowest score in the series? 67, 235 not out, 148, 32, 82, 189, and
13? 18, or 13 or 18. Perth.
He's got it!
we'll give you that. First answer was 13, and that is right.
Correct. So what's that? I've lost track of the score here. Is it 2 out of 4 or something?
2 out of 5.
2 out of 5.
2 out of 5. Okay, right.
This ain't easy. I'm going to go back and watch the other one.
What about this one? You played 290.
Did you ask Mark Wood who his first Test wicket was or something?
No, we asked him things like how many times did he fall over the most in a spell and stuff. It's quite hard. Yeah. You played 291 Test innings.
Yeah.
Did you hit more sixes or score more ducks?
That's a good question.
So how many roughly? I mean, try and think about how many sixes you made.
I thought it was 11 sixes.
Right. Okay, that's actually correct. So that's a half a point.
I'm gonna have to say I must have got 0 more than 11 times. It's all right. That's quite a good one actually. How many notes did I get?
9.
I told you I don't know anything about this stuff.
9. Well, you need to do some more. If you're going to be on BBC, mate, you've got to do your homework.
Yeah, but not on yourself.
Well, you do because you're partly there because of who you are.
But you don't need to know how many notes you got, do you?
Well,
I do know.
Actually, I must admit, in your defence, I don't believe in storing stuff in your head that you could look up. So, yeah, you're probably right.
Right, let's move on.
So was that 2 out of 6 or something?
2 out of 6, yeah.
There's more sledging in this quiz than from anyone else so far, both from question master and from participant. Anyway, here's the next question. You made 218 runs in your last Test match at the Oval. You scored 5 Test match double hundreds. How many other times did you score 200 plus runs in a Test match?
How many other times?
Yeah, so that's 6 times. How many other times did you score 200 plus runs in a Test match? And I'll give you a spread here of 4, 5, 6, or 7.
I was going to say 2. So I remember 1. I remember doing it once. I got 90 odd and 100 against Sri Lanka at Lords. That's 1. Kolkata, did I get? I mean, no, I didn't get many second innings. Medabad, did I get more than 20 odd in Medabad? I'm going to go Medabad 2. I don't know. I'll go. No idea. 6. I was going to say 4.
Say 4. Say 4. You got it right. 4. We'll give you 4 for that. Okay.
I was actually going to say 2. So, like, if you
3 out of 7. Right, you got 3 out of 7. Simon, you're working off the different list from me. Right, so question you haven't. I don't think you've got the updated list of questions, but anyway, it doesn't matter. Right, so question 8 is: What is this? Sorry, one sec. What is this breed of sheep?
That's a Suffolk.
Very good.
He's got it!
Very good. I'm impressed. And what about, have you got any of those?
Yes, thank God. I mean, there's hundreds of breeds of sheep, so I could look very stupid. Yeah, no, we have some Suffolks. Yeah.
I think I've got.
Right.
Sorry, go on. So that's 4. Is that 4 out of 8?
It's
Yeah.
it's bad
Two more
that
to go.
I knew the sheep one straight away, and I could not know any of the other ones.
9th question. What was your strike rate in one-day internationals? I'll give you this to the nearest 2. Your strike rate in one-day internationals.
Well, I think it just sneaked under 70, didn't it? So I'm going to go 70. I think it was 69 right at the end, but I reckon it was good for a bit. I'll go 70.
Simon?
God, you need to press the button. Do you not know the answer? Yeah. You've
Someone said
undersold
70.
yourself.
Hmm?
You've undersold yourself, Alistair. 77.13.
Nah, is that right?
In one-day international cricket. Yeah.
So it wasn't
Okay,
quite as
well,
bad,
I mean, so you're 4 out of 9. So if you don't get this right, you'll come bottom.
it's fine. I can deal with that.
Yeah. You sure?
Yeah, absolutely.
Right. Okay. The
I got
last
the
question.
important one. I got the important one right.
The last question. What, the sheep?
Yeah.
Okay. The last question: who has come closest to beating your incredible yo-yo test score of 22.2? Which England player has come closest?
So
to
it's I'm not
emulating
even
it?
22.2 is the highest I've done, but who's the closest? Well, James Taylor, I reckon, might have got. James Taylor,
No, it's more recent than that.
Johnny Bairstow. I don't
No,
know.
try again.
It's not Stuart Broad or James Anderson, I can tell you that.
Correct.
I don't know. I don't know who's got close. I would be interesting to see what Zach Crawley gets and Joss Butler. I don't know. No idea.
Oh,
I'll come bottom. Who was
I'm
it?
afraid you have Joe Root.
No, that's got. I don't know where you're getting your stuff from.
That's from Scotty. Phil
Really?
Scott. Yeah. Horse's mouth.
Dodgy data. Dodgy data.
Really?
I don't
You
know.
reckon?
He's all right. Rooty's all right. I don't think he's. You'd have thought. Anyway, I'm
And
going to argue.
and the bonus question from Scotty was, how big was the ice bucket you immersed your balls in when you were hitting the nuts at Cardiff in 2015?
It's more when the embarrassment of the doctor having a look at them. That was the worst bit. After that wasn't a very pleasant moment.
So I don't know. We'll have to give you a sort of half round of applause for that.
I can take that.
I'm afraid, and then we're going to have to cut the round of applause short. I'm afraid you only got 4 out of 10 there.
Very tough questions, I thought.
Well, it might have been quite a tough quiz. I think, yeah, perhaps we have been misled by Swanee, and we'll have to believe you.
Well, we'll make sure he doesn't get any better, eh? Yeah.
He will. Swanee will get better.
Well, we'll make sure the questions are tough.
You're going to ask him who did he get out first in that super over or something.
Well, you can help us with the questions to make sure he comes even lower than you. Let's just finish off. We're nearly done, actually. Thanks for that, for playing that game anyway. Dave, no, there's Simon. What have you got a question?
Well, I've got a question.
Go on.
Alistair, just looking ahead, we talked back, 10 years to the Ashes last time, England's last triumph. That was their last triumph in Australia. They've lost 9 of their last 10 matches there. How highly do you rate their chances of doing something in Australia next time round, and how difficult will it be?
I think that for the first time they're going with an attack which has got a lot of variability to it, like actually since for a while, and I mean that, like, we obviously in 2013 we had an attack with some height and pace and bounce, but weren't bowling as well as they would have, we would have liked them. So if there's the big ifs, there's the 2 big ifs about this, and I'm sure if you read my excellent column at Times, you'd have read it, Simon. But I think it's, how fit does every fast bowler stay? And I think that is on both sides, actually. And I think, the Australian, this Australian Pat Cummins, Stark, Hazelwood, and I'm trying to forget one. And Cummins, Stark, Hazelwood, and obviously then you got the line. Those four, if they stay fit and are bowling well, I think Australia are a very hard side to bat on those kind of wickets, to beat on those kind of wickets. I think if there's a couple of injuries to those guys, I think that obviously clearly will weaken Australia. That's just, and I don't quite know what their strength and depth like. And I think as soon as you took Stark out last time, you thought, there were options for England. And it's the same with England. Is Mark Wood going to be? Can we keep Woody fit? Archer, like one of Jimmy and Broad, or if they can pick from the best 6 or 7 bowlers and they're in form, I think that the bowling attack has got a chance to upset the Australian batting lineup. We could have different options for Joe Root to do it. And I suppose in one little sense, it depends what those wickets are like, aren't they? Because for the first time, like they're all dropping wickets pretty much, aren't they? Apart from the Gabba, which Wacker's gone. The Wacker is going to be a drop in again, which will be slow.
Well, it's gone through though, the Wacker actually.
Is it? Well, every drop, yeah.
Not the Wacker. Sorry, not the Wacker, but the new ground,
the
Perth Stadium.
So, look, that's to me, that's what it is. And obviously, if they run into Steve Smith, who is playing as well as he can play, as Jacob's just written there, is how Steve Smith performs will go a long way. I think Smith, if Smith's in any kind of form, then he brings such a huge amount of runs to Australian cricket that, But you'd say Australia are going to be favourites for it, but I think England will have their best chance for a while.
I mean, Broadies said, didn't he, on our show, Simon, that it's not about bowling; it's about runs. In the end, winning the Ashes is about making lots of runs in Australia.
Well, I do love a bowler who obviously says that, and a batter will say the other way. Like the last time, obviously we went there, we never got 20 wickets. So in 2017, we didn't get close to taking 20 wickets. The one thing Australia did do very well, and have done very well, is when they got in, they got big runs. So, for England to go there, someone is going to have to score big runs. It's an obvious thing, but I think purely on a bowling side, to win a Test match, you have to take 20 wickets. Of course, you've got to score big runs. So, I think England got the best chance for a while.
That's great, Cookie. Thanks very much for your time this evening. I've got to go, actually.
Have you?
Okay.
Yeah, I have.
Okay, well, that's fair enough.
Your beetroot salad is going to go, is it?
It's gone off, is it?
No, I've had my beetroot salad. It's on to the karate lesson now.
All right. Chop well.
Nice to speak to you, Cookie. Nice to see you.
Simon, see you later.
Cheers,
See you again.
cheers, Simon. Right, well, I've got one more question from Gareth Hadley, who says, I know Alistair loves his darts. So who is his favourite darts player? Who's your favourite darts player? And who is actually the better darts player, you or Jimmy?
Well, I think that the first one's obviously easy because twice I played him on the big stage and twice I've won. Yes, the standard was pretty average. But I think on the big moments, I would deliver. I think with Jimmy and I darts, I'm a lot steadier than Jimmy. I'm like a bit more consistent. Jimmy will go through a phase where he'll just hammer me for a couple of legs, but then I'll eventually grind him down and he'll lose the plot, and then I'll win. So I tend to win more than... Well, on tour, I haven't played for ages now. I used to win more than I lost against him. And I think he would admit that very quietly if you had him a beer. My favourite darts player is Terry the Ball Jenkins.
Not Phil the Power Taylor, then?
Pardon?
Not Phil the Power.
No, I mean, he's an incredible player. I love it. We all, I think, admire how good he is, but I always like the underdog. Don't you? Always like someone... I mean, a good old bully.
Right, it's time for you to ask your question now, because this is the end of the show. And this is the bat that I promised the other day that someone could win. I'm sorry about the stain near the bottom, which is just because it's been in my bag for too long. This is actually a bat I got signed at the Ashes in 2010-11, and everybody's signed it apart from Tim Bresnan, actually. So I've got everybody else on there. So someone can win this bat, and the idea is Alice is going to ask the question, and if you can type in in the chat box what your answer is. So, and then the first one who gets closest will win this bat.
Well, I mean, judging on
Alistair.
your quiz question, I should ask the hardest questions ever, and then I'll look
Yeah.
at it.
Well, go on then. Ask
What do you want?
away.
Do you want an easy one or a hard one? I need a quick.
Well, we need a reasonably hard one.
Okay. Okay. How many school hundreds did I score for the first team at Bedford School over my 5 years?
How many school hundreds in the 5 years? Blimey, there's people really fast on here. God almighty, we've got so many.
49.
49 was that? Brilliant.
49. Someone said. I wasn't that good.
Right, we've got 11, 12, 15.
You ain't got it yet.
No, okay. Right, let's keep going, everybody.
Oh, there we go. There we go.
Where is it?
There was 2 19s. There was 3 19s. They've all.
Right. So the answer is 19, and the first person who got that was Martin Fisher. It looks like.
Yeah.
Martin Fisher. Right. So Martin, you've won 1900s at school.
Yeah.
That's astonishing.
For the first team, that was the first team.
Yeah,
A couple other ones, but yeah.
What age were you when you scored your first 100?
12, I think. 12, I got it. So.
Don't you get bored batting?
No, I get bored fielding.
Hmm.
You don't get bored batting, do you?
Oh,
Can't get bored batting.
No, not ever.
When you get in. Not when you get in. I mean, didn't Gucci score? We had this 1,000 runs in about 15 days. I think he got a bit bored then. I think that was his final. I'm just bored. He said once, but no, you don't get bored batting. It's fun, isn't it? It's that kind of nice grinding down the opposition. It's nice when you get to that bit. But
So you're a bit of a sadist, really, then.
I think everyone is, isn't it? Like, it's nothing worse. It's like seeing a bloke on 200 and like if you're fielding and watching a bloke get 200, it's not great, is it? So if you can ever do that, it is quite nice.
Well, listen, I'm not going to keep you any longer. So, listen, many thanks. Martin Fisher,
right.
if you send me your email on the WhatsApp group, either that or to theanalystcomp@gmail.com, if you're not on WhatsApp, theanalystcomp@gmail.com, you send me your address and I'll put that in the post to you. So thank you for that, and well done and well won. Just a couple of things for everyone. Many thanks for enjoying tonight, which has been very enjoyable and really interesting. Thank you for joining us. Thursday night, we have Graham Swan. It'll be back on the Patreon subscription service this time. This is sort of a free event, if you like, a little bonus. So please join us on Thursday night for Graham Swan. And just remember that this is in aid of the charity, the Professional Cricketers Trust. So we're giving the proceeds to that. And it is an important charity. Alistair, you actually had a bat with a sticker for the PCA Trust on it, I think, at one point.
Yeah. I did at the end of the last game of the season. I should have put it on at the beginning of the season. I got 170 with it on. But no, on a very serious note, it is a brilliant charity. It is a brilliant charity, and the people who work behind the scenes to do it and to get the cricketers who genuinely need it. Not obviously like us, like the people who are playing, but the people who have played a game of county cricket or have been a professional cricketer who have fallen on hard times. It is obviously very sad when it does happen, and anything we can do is to do. And obviously part of my charity, when I had my benefit year, the PCA Benevolent Fund, it was then. I sponsored, donated some money there. So it's a very, very good cause.
And for you, I mean, obviously, you have another life apart from cricket. You've got this farming life. So just tell us briefly what's in order tomorrow. What you got to do on the farm tomorrow?
So it's actually quite a busy day tomorrow. We've got to wean a couple of calves off their mum. So they've got to go to another yard. So we've got to do that in the morning. Then we've got to go, we're scanning the sheep tomorrow after that. So about 9 o'clock, we have to scan about 350 sheep to see how many lambs they got inside them. So we can then group them into different fields. And then obviously if they got 3, 2 and 1, that's kind of like the thing. Then we can obviously give the 3 more food, bring them in early 2. And then obviously when they're lambing inside, we know how many they're expected to have. So that's tomorrow. What else? There's one other job we got to do. Oh yeah, and we've got to treat some sheep at the end in the afternoon. So it's actually a busy day tomorrow.
Bonus question.
Yeah.
What type of sheep is that?
Gosh, a woolly one. Actually, I genuinely don't know that one.
That's a merino. That's a merino. I've learned a lot. It's a merino sheep. Yeah, I've learned a lot from.
Probably should have known that, but we don't really have. Oh gosh. Oh no, you got some sledging from Howard Myers on that.
Well, have I
he
got it
read
wrong?
before. Yeah, I should have probably known Marina. I can't remember what I was talking about now.
Anyway, listen, many thanks for your time. Eventually, try and get your technology sorted. I hope you get your phone fixed.
I'm enjoying not having my phone at the moment. It's quite nice. It's quite nice. Very slow to get it sorted, to be honest with you.
Listen, many thanks.
Perfect.
Thank you very much to everyone else for attending. Thank you to Noughts for being our producer tonight. Done a fantastic job. I hope you enjoyed it all, and we'll upload it as a podcast in a couple of days or so. Everybody have a good evening. Alistair, many thanks again.
Cheers, Simon. See you soon.
And good night
Cheers,
to
guys.
everyone. Thank you.
Thank you. See you later.
Cheers. Bye.